Hey everyone, and welcome to the Powerhouse second episode. And this is special to me because the person that we're gonna talk to is the first person that I actually introduced this new format of my show. I was back in Spain then. It was a vacation, and we had a great conversation. And she was one of my inspiration to say, "I gotta do something. I gotta start this. I gotta put my energy into this." So let's all welcome a person that has over a decade of experience in e-commerce, retail, sales, and brand marketing. And now she's the founder and CEO of Vane. Let's welcome Vanessa Cancio. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And just even our conversation that we had a while ago while you were on a trip, it's so nice to hear that you were inspired because so was I. I think that conversation was energetic for both of us, or energizing for both of us. And so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me back.
I appreciate your story and your journey. And that's why I kind of decided to really push with my podcast because as a leader, I believe that part of our responsibility is not only to make something happen, but also to spotlight the stories of the people that surround us and uplift them and showcase that we can learn from everyone. It doesn't matter if someone is super experienced or currently in the journey or someone who is just wanting to start their journey and
Yes.
aspiring leader. Vanessa, tell us your story.
Yeah, a little bit about my story. So you gave a great background, so thank you so much. Have spent my entire career within e-com, sales, brand marketing. I started off in the corporate world for about 8 years across two global corporate companies across PepsiCo and Anheuser-Busch, which were incredible experiences, not only doing brand marketing, but then e-commerce. And what really drove me was I always wanted to be at the forefront of where I saw marketing and sales going. And that really meant getting into tech. That's how I went from brick and mortar into e-commerce and then really building Vane. And so when I started to build Vane, I wanted to understand I'm so passionate about consumer and their consumer problem. And I realized that I was having so many issues in building or my own skincare routine, and there was so much noise out there. I didn't know what products to use, what was actually going to work for me, what was going to make my problems worse. And this started as an idea back in 2020, and I kind of left it alone because I loved my job at the time. But it got to a point where, okay, I know that this idea won't leave me alone. And I no longer was as fulfilled in my corporate job. And I said, I think if it's an idea that won't leave me alone for about 3 years, it means something that I have to do this. And so I took the leap and I started Vane. I'm not a technical person. So I started no code MVP, sending out surveys, understanding how people are shopping for their skin products currently and whatnot, and what were the gaps that they were missing. And in that journey, I threw myself into the startup world. I knew one or two people that were founders, but not a lot. And I just threw myself into New York Tech Week at that point. This is October 2023. Threw myself in, met so many people, practiced my elevator pitch over and over and would tweak it. But in that journey, I met my now ex co-founder. And, having or being non-technical, I've taken a Java class. I know how to code. I know how to do some Python here or there, but not to a point to actually build a technical platform. And so I met my co-founder at that point. We had so much in common. There was a lot of overlap. Great guy. We worked together for about 6 months. And in those 6 months, we were able to build a really basic MVP. But it got to a point where I realized we're about to sign all this paperwork. We're about to split all this equity. And we had already agreed on certain things, but I realized I was full in and he wasn't, which is totally fine. Everyone financially is in different situations. And I had prepped myself in order to go and start a company. But I think it got to a point where I started to feel like I wasn't respecting myself enough and my value and valuing myself and what I was bringing to the table. And so I went to renegotiate of saying, "Hey, let's split this a little bit differently." And like not a big difference, a matter of like 5 points for equity. And it was one of those things that I knew I was at a crossroads. I either could stay silent and move forward and essentially always question whether or not I had truly valued myself and everything, all the blood, sweat, and tears I was putting into this company just for the sake of holding on to the co founder. Or value myself and know that I wasn't going to be able to live with myself if I didn't say something and renegotiate and potentially lose my co-founder and start from zero. And so I was at this crossroads and I realized I had to do it. I would never be able to live with myself. And I don't think that I would be as I think I would always be disappointed in myself that I didn't stay true to what felt right in my gut. And I think what I knew I was valued at. Right. And so unfortunately, that part, right? I said my ex co founder. So it kind of spoils the story. But, that didn't quite work out, which is totally fine. I think it really, when it comes to values, it's not only perseverance of moving forward, but also honesty, not only honesty with yourself, but with your partners, and it's not just a casual coworker. This isn't, well, we don't have to come see everything eye to eye as a coworker and we'll just go to the boss or senior leaders. Like you are the senior leader. You have to be able to know not only being, again, honest with yourself, but honest with your co-founder, someone who you're going into partnership with. And I think if you talk to a lot of founders, the same way that you see your co-founder is a lot of the same ways you see investors, where this is not a casual relationship. This is a marriage, for a lack of a better word. Like you need to know everything in and out. And so even though I knew I was taking a huge risk, I knew that in the long term, it was going to be worth it, even if in the short term, it was going to be painful. So it didn't work out. And I think I spent a few weeks there spiraling completely, freaking out. I was like, okay, I guess, because at this point I had no income. I was fully living on my savings. And so I was like, okay, do I need to go find a job? Do I just start from, zero? Do I continue moving forward? And really, thank God I had incredible advisors and mentors to look to. And I decided, no, this is when I believe so much in this idea and what I'm building. I don't want to give it up just yet. I need to keep pushing. And so I decided, okay, what does that look like? What do I need to get done to get to the next point? And that was I need to build a new MVP, because with losing my co-founder, I also lost the MVP because we had it. This is a lesson for everyone. Sign paperwork. Sign all the paperwork in the world, because I didn't own anything and it was a total mess. So I knew I truly was starting from zero. So I decided, what do I need? I need an MVP, and I need a really good, solid MVP to actually launch with, not just to, test with a few hundred people, but actually to launch with. And so I did a quick friends and family round, which I originally did not want to do. I was like, no, that's too much pressure. I can't ask, my friends and family to invest in me. Like, that's just too much. And I was blown away by all the support I got. And I was able to raise just shy of 100K to launch our MVP, get a fractional product manager on board, and be able to do a launch party, which was about a year ago now. So it was okay. When you push through and it's going to be rough and you're going to question every decision that you're making, but it's worth it. And I think, I launched that MVP. A few months later, I now have a new co-founder, but that was a few months after the breakup. Was introduced to a friend of a friend. She's incredible, so smart. I like to say that she's the brains and I'm the personality hire. Even though like I was working on it before her, she is just incredible, not only as a person, but as a partner. And I could not be luckier to have found her and be able to build this together. And because we want the same things and we slightly care about different things in terms of like equity, in terms of, you know, I think negotiating, which matters when it comes to a co-founder. When you care about slightly different things, that actually means that you both can get what you want. And so that's great. But we both want the same end goal. And so yeah, I have now a new co-founder. She's incredible. I could not have asked if I had put everything on a wish list. I don't think that would have happened, and yet it did. So it truly worked out for the best. And I think, going back to perseverance, when we now actually just did a huge pivot within the last month. So Bain went from being a marketplace where we were using AI to help people find the right skincare products for their skin type based on, their individual eczema, skin type, if you have dry skin, combination, oily, whatever that is, where you live, all those factors. We're still taking that into account, but we started to realize that people want to track their skin health. And so that meant, okay, do we keep building what we're building and then just add that on? Or do we do a complete pivot? And this is where I think having learned from my experience in the past of having to start from zero and persevering through it and knowing that it actually came out better on the other side, even though it was miserable in the time being, I've learned that now and I'm not as scared to do it. Where now we actually are sundowning what we had built, that original MVP, and starting fresh with a brand new app and relaunching. And it's scary and it seems like, oh my God, what are we doing? Is this the right direction? But her and I have had incredible conversations, not only with each other, but with our advisors and also already with some of the testing we've been doing with some users, really, really basic beta users. And we are on the right path. And this is something that we're not really seeing in the market. And it's, again, scary, but definitely going to be worth it. And so I think all of that to say, not only being honest again with yourself and even having a new co-founder. I was so nervous to have a new co-founder because I'd been burned in the past. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just bring her on as a head of product. And she was like, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be co-founder. And I was like, you know what? I respect it. And you're right. And again, it made me question of what do I honestly want? Am I being honest with myself? And then how do I just continue to push? How do I continue to really persevere through the hard times, knowing that I care so much about what I'm building and that it's going to be worth it no matter what's happening in the short term. But yeah, that's a little bit about my story.
Wow, beautifully shared. Thank you for sharing with us, especially decisions that were so hard to make. And of course, you were very vulnerable. This will be published online. So I hope that this story is going to be inspiring for people who are in the same track, that are looking to maybe separate from their current situation and pivot into a decision that they truly made themselves.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring back to the start of your story, wherein you and your co-founder maybe weren't super aligned in the future. What was at stake there that you decided, I have to make this decision to part ways and do it? What if you didn't? What if you just stuck with that current trajectory? What was at stake?
I don't think that Vane would be what it is today. I don't think that I would have been happy with it. I think I felt that I was compromising so much just because I wanted someone to be working with me. I felt that I
Uh-huh.
was compromising my vision for the company. And not to say that your vision isn't going to change, it's always going to change, it's going to adapt. But what you can tell in your gut when it's a true change that makes sense versus you compromising for the sake of being able to work with someone or have someone on your team when you know it's not a right fit. And so I think what was at stake, one was I think my own integrity and building a company that I truly believed in with the vision that I knew could work. And I think that's really what was at stake at that point. And as hard as it was, I'm so happy I made the decision.
I would comment on, there was a huge thing at stake. You going to be honest to yourself, or you're going to lie to yourself and kind of like compromise, right?
100%.
In terms of the emotions that were running through your brain, and how does it affect your life? Were you not able to sleep?
But yeah,
What was symptoms? Yeah.
my anxiety was through the roof. I was going between like not being able to sleep. I was spiraling. I was ruminating, just like staring outside the window, just thinking through all the possible outcomes of, okay, what does this mean? Worst case scenario, what should I be doing? Go fluctuating between like not eating because I was so stressed or stress eating because I was so stressed. So it emotions were all over the place. And that's where I say I'm so lucky to have had people, mentors and advisors that checked in on me, that are
Right.
founders themselves or investors that were checking in and saying, hey, I've been there. How are you doing? Want to make sure.
And
And it wasn't, I got so nervous that people were checking in to see, like, had I made a decision? When I made the decision, how was I bouncing back from it? I was so nervous that people were expecting me to perform right away when that
right.
wasn't what was happening. The people that had been there, my true mentors, were coming back and saying, hey, emotionally, how are you doing? Are
Wow.
you okay? Which was incredible. And I think I'm so thankful to them. And I still have those people in my close circle because of that, because I knew it was true mentors I could turn to, not just when things are good, but when things are bad. So
That's good.
emotions were all over the place, to say the least.
And I'm very relieved to hear that you have a great support system around you. That's important for a journey just like this, that
Yes.
you had to make a big decision. Are you one of those leaders who make a decision and you just don't look back? Or were there times where like, did I make the right decision? Should I retract what I told my ex co-founder? Should we make it work? How are you dealing with that type of uncertainty?
Yeah, so I think before making the decision, I kept thinking I tried really hard to make it work. And so
Right.
I'm the type of person of know what my options are. I'm going to try everything to not have to make the final decision, but there are certain things that you get to a point that you say there's no turning back at this point. And that's where we got to where I think we could not see eye to eye, that it was very clear of okay, we're now not only not seeing eye to eye, but it's veering off into territories because it's emotions not only on my end but also on their end,
Right.
where we're people at the end of the day. So as much
We
as
are.
we want to say this is a work environment, when it's something that you care about this much about and it's your baby, there's
Right.
going to be emotions involved. And so I think it got to a point where it was, hey, it doesn't even matter about all of the corporate stuff anymore. I don't even think that we personally can work together anymore.
Right.
Which I've seen him since then. Again, great person. I think it just emotions were heightened and I'm the type of leader that I made the decision. I'll try everything not to and I'll see all my other options.
Right.
And then once I make the decision, that's where I move forward and I say, well, it doesn't matter at this point because the decision's been made and this is where we're moving forward. And it's not to say that you're not going to question yourself. I'll question myself maybe at the very beginning and then
Right.
know, well, it's already been made, so we move forward.
I'm very blown away by how you handle this type of decision and the action you took after that
Thank
decision.
you.
You tried your best. It's great. I want to break it down because that's how people are. You did your best, and then you had the point where and you said, "I have to make that change," and you were content with your effort
Yes.
previously, right? And then you said,
Yes.
"When I move forward, I'm going to go ahead and I can go back." And during that,
100%.
right, 100%. You mentioned that next step was you had to race around. You came to that decision. You didn't want to do to friends and family round. Behind that, how did you approach that decision in an honest way and say, okay, I admit I have to do this action. What was that thought process and being honest, and how did you use that to approach the friends and family round?
Yeah, I think I asked myself, if it was the other way around, would I invest in this? And also asking myself of who am I going to go and ask to invest in this? It's not going to be people where if I don't know, it's not to say that I know anyone's financial situation, but I think there's certain people that, they're fine. They can afford to invest, a few
Right.
thousand. And then other people where I'm like, if I don't know, I'm not even going to ask you. And it has nothing to do with you personally, where I don't want you to invest. I just don't want to put you in that position. I was very conscious of I am not going to put anyone in a position where they feel like, well, maybe I can't, maybe I'm not in a position to invest, but I feel bad. And I was like, that is not the case here. This is a business
Mhm.
decision. And I made it very clear to everyone that I approached amongst friends and family of this is a business decision. I will not
Right.
take it personally. It is separate from our personal relationship. I love you. You love me. Great.
Right.
And also, please know what you're getting yourself into. I will work as hard as I possibly can to make this work, but know that it
Mhm.
is a business decision at the end of the day. And there is always a chance that it can not work out.
Wow.
And so I was very honest with everyone. And I'm very blessed to have had nine, nine investors that gave about between 5 to 25K. I got lucky there.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Good size. Good
Yeah,
angel size.
good, truly, truly. And so, yeah, it was incredible, but it was a decision because I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to have that pressure. I think it's
Right.
very different going to institutional investors who do it's their job. You know what I mean? Like they know what they're doing. It's very different to be like, "Hey, well this is your job, you know the risks and you're going to do your due diligence." Versus going to friends and family that might not have ever invested in anything. And they're like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, we believe in you. I go, no, 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 hold on, take a step back. I went to everyone with a pitch deck
Wow.
and I
Right.
went with slides and I said, this is what I think, I don't know the numbers. These are all estimates. This is what I think based off the size of market. And I was very upfront. And, I think sometimes when you're raising money from institutional investors is always the game,
Right.
which I don't like any of those games. To me, I'm like, I'm very honest. I'll tell you this is what's happening. But I
Mhm.
I was even more honest with friends and family because I
Right.
want to make sure. that they trusted me at the end of the day. So yeah, that's how we got there and decided to go ahead with it.
That's good. And you continued, made your MVPs, and you mentioned last month you just did a big pivot. And
Yeah.
how did you apply this honesty and perseverance? How did you lean on it to say, even if it was a short time and I used my friends and family's money, it was a wrong direction? How did it affect you?
I'm so happy you caught that because there was a lot of thought process behind that of, my God, did I just use this money? Which don't get me wrong, a lot of founders will tell you, don't spend a lot of money on your MVP because you're probably not going to use it anyway. But you have to
Correct.
start somewhere, right? And so we spent about 30K on our MVP,
Right.
which is pretty average. I know it ranges on the technical side. We did 20, 21, 22, and then to have the fractional product manager, that was the additional to get to the 30, which I think was worth every dollar as a non-technical founder. So I will say that. It's not like I spent a ton of money on that, but it was still a good chunk of money to say, wait, okay, so we're not using any of that anymore. So that's
Right.
just going to be sundown. And that's a very scary decision. And it's something that I think I we have not done lightly. My
Right.
co-founder and I now, Saranya, she's incredible. We both were like, okay, we've tried, we've done a lot with what we've built. We actually started making revenue. Like it's not that it wasn't working, it just wasn't working in that way. And we started
Right.
to see of, okay, when people actually ask us, they want to know how current skincare products are working for them. They don't want to have to buy something brand new. They want to know how it's currently working for them. And then if it's not, then to be able to purchase. So it's not to say that what we're building or what we built won't be useful down the road. It will, just not right now. We need to pivot a
Right.
little bit. That also means that we don't really have as much investment to put into now our new process because we haven't raised another round. So that's
Yeah.
also another thing to take into account of, okay, well, financially, does it make sense? My
Right.
co-founder and I were like, it does because one, she can build it, which is incredible. She is getting her PhD in AI and she's a computer engineer. So she can
Right.
build it and she's the one building it, which is again, so happy that I found her. But point is, right? Like it was a lot of being honest of, okay, yes, could I continue to push through just to say that I used this original MVP? Yeah. But is it actually going to take us to the next step? No.
Right.
And so that was like the harsh truth. And
Right.
then I think perseverance of, oh my God, I have to start all over again.
Mhm.
Like I can't believe that I'm doing this again. But it's not as scary because I know that it worked out for the best last time. And I
Right.
know it's going to work out for the best this time again.
Insightful, that
Thank you.
honesty, because sometimes we have bias towards our original idea. For people who's going to start the business in the future, you will be attached with your original
Yeah.
concept. You wouldn't want to.
It's your baby. It's your
It
baby.
is for our audience who are in denial stage that, oh no, this would work. My assumptions, I think, are still plausible and they're scared to move. So there's a level of fear that it might not work, but I fear it might work. So they're so scared to make a decision. How would you enlighten them how to make that decision?
Yeah, I think test it first. I think which is maybe not, before we fully pivoted, I was attached to my original idea 100%. And I was like, I'm not going to let this go. This is so good. And it is. I'm not going to say it's a bad idea. It was good. But I mean, it's my idea. Great. Right. But I think that we started to test of, okay, let's start talking to people more. Instead of, we had taken some time away from the users and to really build, we need to go back to the users and say, what are you liking about it? What are you not liking about it? What do you feel is missing?
Right.
And that was where we started to see of, yeah, the pivot needs to happen. And again, it's not to say that this wasn't a good idea and that it's not going to be helpful or useful at the end, but sometimes you have to take a step back and detach yourself a little bit and be able to
Right.
say, okay, where do I actually want to get to? What are
Mhm.
people interested in? Is what I'm doing right now fulfilling that, or does it need to change? And that doesn't mean, I think I've also struggled with, well, does this mean that I failed? Does this mean that I'm a failure? Right? Because when you're a founder, we attach ourselves a lot to our ideas, not only in, yes, this is a great idea, but also a reflection of ourselves and our success. And so I think it's, I questioned of, did I fail? Am I now a failure?
Right.
And
Right.
all of that. And again, I had to really do a big perception change of the perception of myself, of the idea, of the pivot. And I think whatever also test it with people of what you pitch it because I started I go to a lot of events. And so I started pitching the new idea
Right.
and seeing even though technically we hadn't done anything, I started
Right.
pitching
Right.
it and seeing the reaction. And then I would pitch the old idea and see the reaction. And I was
Right.
getting a way better reaction with the new idea. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, I hit something here.
Mm.
And then even with my close friends and family, I started telling them of like, "Well, we're thinking of this." And I would see their faces light up and go, "Oh my god, that's
Right.
amazing." Yes, and I go and then I would say because they weren't gonna say it, I'd say, "I think it's stronger than the last idea." And they'd
Right.
say,
Right.
"Yes." I gave them the I allowed them to say yes and agree with me. I opened the door for them to say, "Hey, I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, you're right. That's a better idea."
That's good.
So,
That you became honest to yourself first. That's the important part. And how did that conversation with your co-founder? Was she aligned or there was some disagreement? And how are you able to persevere and say, we've decided this is the next chapter,
yeah,
close the
I think she got there before I did, to be honest.
there. Okay, okay. That's
She got there
interesting.
before I did. So the hard person was me, not her. She was like, "Hey, I really think we should be doing this." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, totally. Further down the road." And so when it came to it, she was already on board.
There we go.
Yeah. So that actually fortunately was not the hard part. I'm sure for her, she felt like she had to be selling me a little bit on
Right.
it. But the moment I came around to it, I was like, "Saranya, you're right. We have to do this." She was like, "Yeah, I know. I've been saying it." I was like, "Okay, great."
Right. Awesome. Is there any motto or quote that you really adhere to?
Yeah, I think, one of my friends, he's a founder, very successful, and he actually his it's he's the CEO and co-founder of this B2B SaaS company that's in procurement. And when this was just an idea, and I was like, should I do this? Should I not? He's definitely one of the mentors or advisors that I turn to during those hard times. And he's like, you just keep going. As long as you just keep which like sounds very much like Dory from well, it sounds like like, like Dory from Nemo that's like, "Just keep swimming," like, it's truly like, when he would say that, I'm like, "It's just because it worked out for you, like, that's it." But
Right.
he's like, "Companies fail, 1, because I think one of the main reasons is because co-founder breakups, so I made it through that, at least.
There we
I made
go.
it through that, and 2nd is because they run out of money and they don't keep going." So he's like, however you can figure out to keep going, just keep something's gonna work. Just keep moving forward. And that
Wow.
sounds so simple and like a no duh, but there are really hard times where I've been tempted to be like, never mind,
Right.
throw in the towel. It's time. We call it goodbye, RIP. And every time that I've decided not to do that and to keep going, I've, it's only been better. So, and I've only seen advantages from it and pros. So
Mhm.
I think that's really the motto that I keep telling myself is just keep going. It's going to work out. Just keep moving
Right.
forward.
A lot of times we overthink things. We always pause and start. Minor challenges, minor roadblocks, because we always want to find the best idea, the best strategy. But it's in the doing and the persevering, like a mechanical thing. You
Yes.
just gotta do it despite the emotion, despite the doubt, despite the fear. And that's beautiful. I learned that from the short story you mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I think yeah, of course. I think, I grew up an athlete as well. And there's a lot of times for anyone who's an athlete, you don't want to be doing your sport every day. And I was a runner. So I'm like, no, I don't want to run 5 miles today. It's raining. It's horrible. And I'm from Miami. I'm like, it's humid. I don't want to be out there. You don't it's the same in building a company. Not every day are you like waking up saying, "This is incredible. I'm living my dream. Best day ever." There are days where you're like, "I don't know what I'm doing. Is this the right decision?" And you have to keep going. And it's you know how they say I'm a Chapel Roan fan. Everyone's like, "She's an overnight success." And then it's all the videos that come out of 10 years before. An overnight success is 10 years in the making. And so it's like you keep going and one day it's going to work out.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It became a full circle moment because you were an athlete And the perseverance really applies. It's built. It's not like a as a motto you can post on your
No.
wall and be like, I persevered.
Yeah,
It's the
no.
day to day flexing of that
Yes.
muscle.
Yeah, you earn
And
it. You have to earn the perseverance. Like, you're not it's not, I persevered and I did nothing. You have to earn it to say that you persevered through something. So, yeah, I agree. It's something that's definitely built.
And we're in our final portion of our show here. Learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience are going to appreciate this, especially for those people who have overthinking problems, over analyzing analysis paralysis problem. What would be your final remarks to the people who are listening, who want to get inspired, who want to get empowered to follow in your footsteps?
I think go with your gut. I think I overanalyze. If you look at any of my social media handles, it's like professional over like chronic overthinker. Like I overthink everything. But I think when you go with your gut and you feel it, right? That whisper, that's what you go with. Don't go with the loud noise, go with what your gut is telling you. And I know that that sounds easier said than done, but it really makes a big difference because at the end of the day, you know deep down what you want and what the right decision is.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to witness your journey as an
Oh,
entrepreneur.
thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This has been incredible. I've been so lucky to be able to share this part of my story.
And to our audience, thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks.